And you know what? If you do what the people want and not what the corporate world wants or billionaire campaign contributors want, you win elections.
Finally, this week, Bernie Sanders got some credit for the success that Joe Biden has seen from some of his policies. This is largely being ignored by everybody. That Bernie Sanders is the one that popularized these ideas that are now helping Democrats and Joe Biden. It's very, God, go back to like 2016, 2020, both primaries, and see how the media treated Bernie, how they fear-mongered about his crazy ideas that no one supports. Meanwhile, when one of them are at least somewhat kind of implemented, doesn't go as, student debt cancellation doesn't go as far as it could, but when it's implemented, massive support for Joe Biden, boosting him with young voters going into the midterms that are now expected to help Democrats the way that things, at least right now, are looking in polling. But let me get to the first clip here. So this is Chris Hayes, to his credit, bringing on Bernie Sanders and bringing up how he is the one that brought these ideas to the forefront.
One of the big accomplishments of the unified democratic governance was the announcement of the president's cancellation, $10,000 of student debt, $20,000 for those who are getting Pew grants. You can chart a clear trajectory from your presidential campaign that championed that issue along with Elizabeth Warren to it actually happening. And there was a lot of back and forth. Is this going to cause a backlash? Are people going to be resentful because I had to pay my loans? What is your sense of the outcome of this in terms of what it's meant for people's lives and also what it's meant politically?
I have the radical idea that good policy is good politics. And it is good policy to cancel student debt in this country. I cannot tell you, Chris, how many young and middle-aged people I have talked to who have hesitated, having children, can't afford to buy a house, whose lives are in economic trouble because they're paying off these huge student debts. So what Biden did was the right thing. I would have gone further. It's what the people want. I'm not going to tell you it's 100% popular, but it is what the people want. And you know what? If you do what the people want and not what the corporate world wants or billionaire campaign contributors want, you win elections. If you raise the minimum wage to a living wage, you win elections. If you expand Medicare to include dental and hearing and vision, which recently in a poll had only 87% support, you win elections. If you build housing and create jobs, you win elections. If you give tax breaks to the rich, you're probably not going to win.
Bottom line, popular things are in fact popular and will help you politically. Now, I'm going to get to some polling here shortly. I'll get to a second clip as well. But let's, of course, be clear. The abortion ruling, the overturning of Roe back, in the summer, that has clearly led to a massive drive in support for Democrats. So that is definitely, I think, the biggest factor right now in motivating voters potentially in the midterms. Again, we'll see if that continues for the next couple months. But the other major piece, of course, is the student debt cancellation. And you can see that here. But the biggest issue Democrats always have, especially in midterms, but even generally, is younger voters. Getting younger voters out to support, getting younger voters activated. This is a direct result of Biden canceling just a small amount in student debt. Check this out. This is approval from just 1 month difference from July to August. It was at 49% for adults under 30, now at 59%. A 10-point swing in 1 month. And there's a lot more data. I've gone over this in past videos. It all goes to showing that, yes, the student debt cancellation is in fact what is helping Joe Biden's approval rating, at least, at the end of the summer. Of course, again, abortion being a main topic here. But just imagine what President Bernie Sanders could have done and how popular his policies would be right now. Though, of course, I'm sure a whole other slew of issues would have came up with other Democrats trying to fight Bernie. Anyways, I don't want to go to an alternate dimension, but it is, worth thinking about occasionally. But let's get to the second clip here.
One of the most striking features of the last 2 years which have been strange in many ways, obviously coming out of the worst parts of the COVID pandemic still with us, inflation high, labor market's very tight, has been this raft of union organizing, unlike anything that we've really seen in, I think it's fair to say, decades. The NLRB showing the union elections won by mid-year. You can see that spike there in 2022. It's been about 20 years since we've seen this. What do you think's going on here?
It ain't hard to tell you, to figure out. Workers are working, in many instances, longer hours for lower wages, and with inflation, they're falling further and further behind you. You want to know what's going on? In the last 49 years, real wages today are lower than they were 49 years ago, despite an increase in productivity. Almost all of the new income and wealth is going to the people on top. And what working people are saying, excuse me, I can't afford to buy a house, I can't afford to send my kids to college, and yet during the pandemic, the billionaire class saw a $2 trillion increase in their wealth. That's what's going on. People are standing up, fighting back. We've been involved in many of these strikes.
So as usual, Bernie Sanders sort of undersells himself here. He has been, I think, a very important piece of this. Now, it's hard to say, again, in an alternate universe without a Bernie Sanders running in 2016 or 2020, where the state of things would be right now in terms of these unions and the interest in that. But I think he has at least helped to raise awareness for the working class about the power that they do have in the workplace if they work together, band together, and form these unions to have some say over their wages, over their benefits, over their lives. And Bernie has been at the forefront of all of these fights, has been there, has been fighting for them, has been raising their issues, has been making it more public, having these discussions, whether it's with Starbucks workers, Amazon workers, John Deere when they had their labor action. I mean, go down the list. He's been in support of all of them, with all of them, pushing along, pushing their message out there, and helping to get many of these wins. So it's good to see he's had an impact, even if he did not win, did not become president, he's still able to raise a lot of these issues. And I also don't want to make it sound like it's, Bernie's the reason this is happening. No, of course, it involves, a lot of work on the part of the actual workers in these workplaces, doing the heavy lifting, doing the organizing. That is, of course, the majority of it, of course, is them. But it's worth pointing out the impact that Bernie has had on that discussion. While most lawmakers, at least especially when it comes to the Senate, people like Elizabeth Warren, have been largely silent, even though they claim to be in support of the working class. So you're not really in support of them unless you're standing with them and vocally against these massive corporations that have continued to screw them.